I'm Max Lopez, and this is a Blue Wave. In recent days, Republicans have been criticizing the Biden administration for what they perceive as a lack of effort in getting aid to victims from Hurricane Helene in southern states because of their political affiliation being Republican-leaning areas. But what we have here is an article from people.com that shows that, in fact, Donald Trump, during his presidency, on 3 different occasions, withheld aid from areas that he thought were Democratic leaning, and was wondering if the people that needed help voted for him before he helped them out and delivered the aid. But before we look at that article, please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share with someone who's into politics. That helps YouTube take my channel more seriously and spread the word to more and more people. Let's go over here, speaking of people, to people.com and take a look at this article here. It says, Trump looked up how many votes he got in wildfire-torn area before agreeing to provide disaster aid, officials claim. Former officials in Donald Trump's White House have dropped new bombshell claims that the previous president wanted to withhold federal disaster aid in states that were not Republican-leaning during his time as commander-in-chief. Mark Harvey, a senior director on Trump's National Security Council staff, and Olivia Troy, the former Homeland Security advisor to Mike Pence, spoke to Politico's E&E News and alleged that there are at least 3 occasions, count them, 1, 2, 3, where Trump played politics and deliberately delayed disaster relief as president. In one shocking instance, during the deadly California wildfires in 2018, Harvey claimed that Trump initially refused to approve disaster aid because the state is historically Democratic. Harvey alleges that the then president only changed his mind after staff made the case that Orange County, where fire was spreading, largely supported Trump. We went as far as looking up how many votes he got in those impacted areas to show him these are people who voted for you, Harvey said. A story corroborated by Troy. Troy alleges that Trump refused to sign documents approving aid as president, despite pleas from local politicians, leading her to repeatedly call on Pence to step in. She warned that if Trump wins the election, she believes he will continue to approve disaster relief through a political lens. Harvey added, there's no empathy for survivors. It's all about getting your photo op, right? Disaster theater to make him look good. The warnings from Harvey and Troy, who have both endorsed Harris in the presidential election, come while Trump spreads lies about the Biden administration's response to Hurricane Helene. On September 30th, the former president claimed without evidence that the Biden administration and North Carolina's Democratic governor were going out of their way to not help people in the Republican areas. Trump also falsely claimed that Biden was dodging calls from Georgia's Republican governor amid the storm, which the governor himself debunked. Every accusation by the right in this country is an admission of guilt. We've seen this time and time and time again, where there's something in the subconscious of the right wing that has to get what they actually believe and what they're actually doing out of their system by accusing the left of doing it. It somehow makes them feel better about it. But it happens time and time again. And here we are again, where the Republicans have been very, very quick to cast blame on the federal government for the response of, by the federal government to Hurricane Helene, and accusing Biden of being politically motivated in providing relief. But we know that there's not any evidence of that whatsoever, and that the federal government immediately began providing relief to the affected areas. And there's no evidence whatsoever of relief being withheld because the people that are being impacted are in Republican leaning areas. Whereas with the former president, Donald Trump, there is in fact evidence that he considers the political leanings of the people getting aid before he sent aid on many different occasions. So yeah, every accusation is an admission of guilt. It helps the right in this country feel better about themselves somehow. And here's the thing, is that the main difference between Trump and Biden as leaders is that Biden is a man that would never consider the political affiliation of an American in this country who is needing aid from the government. It's not something that he would consider, because what he sees is somebody being an American first and a Democrat or a Republican second. And we know that with Kamala Harris, she has said time and time again that when, during her time as a prosecutor, she would not ask somebody, the first words out of her mouth aren't, are you a Democrat? Are you a Republican? It's, are you okay? Right? So that's what we know, how the left acts. We know that Biden and Harris are people who have empathy for the American people when these disasters happen. But what does Trump represent? What does Trump, what kind of leadership does he show when disasters happen? Well, he very much so thinks about himself, and he thinks about whether or not he got political support from people in the affected areas was a major factor in whether or not they got help. And let's look at COVID. We know that in the early days of COVID-19, the virus was affecting large cities more than anywhere else, which happened to be, guess what, Democratic leaning. So based on that, Trump didn't want to do anything about the pandemic or try to tamper the virus down, because in his mind, it was affecting the right people in Democrats, being hit harder by the virus than more rural Republican leaning areas. Now, the virus eventually spread throughout the whole country, but how many lives could have been saved if Donald Trump, our former president, took action and wanted to save people just on the fact that they are Americans, and people being Americans means that they deserve help and deserve aid? How many lives could have been saved in this country? We know that America is number one of excessive COVID deaths, preventable deaths that could have been avoided. How much less preventable death would we have had in this country during the pandemic if Donald Trump did not consider the political affiliation of people that were being affected by the virus in its early days? I think the number is quite high, and it's just ridiculous hypocrisy for the right wing to turn around and blame the left for doing something that there's no evidence that Biden has ever done, when in fact there's tons of evidence that Trump himself has participated in the exact behavior they're trying to blame Biden and the left for. Absolute hypocrisy. But again, we know that in today's day and age, you can't be a Republican without first and foremost being a hypocrite as well. That's all I got for you guys in this one. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share with someone who's into politics. It helps YouTube take my channel more seriously and spread the word to more and more people. All right, we'll see you in the next video. Until then, peace.